Yo, Rabbi say, so we're beginning Chumash Shemos. You know, the Ramban calls Chumash Bereshis, the Sefer HaYetzirah, the Sefer of creation. He says that the Maaseh Avos are also part of creation because that's what created Klal Yisrael. You know, the Amzu Yotzarti Li Losi Yisaperu Maaseh Avos Simen Labonim. Chumash Shemos is the Ramban calls it the Sefer Habonim, also the Sefer Hagolus v'Hagula. It would seem that really the story of the Bonim is a story of Golus and Gola. You see that right in the beginning of the Sefer Habonim. If Eila Shmois b'nei Yisrael Aboim Mitzrayim, and when Reuven Shimon etc. He called Nefesh Yoitze Yerech Yaakov Shivim Nefesh v'Yosef Hoya b'Mitzrayim v'Yomos Yosef v'Cholecha v'Chol Adorahu. ובני ישראל פורו וישץ וירבו ויעצמו במועד מועד ותגמול הארץ יוסף ויקום מלך חודש על מצרים אשר לא יודע אז יוסף ויאמר למה הנה עם בני ישראל רב ועוצם ממנו הבה נשחק מלוי פן ירבה והיה כי סקרנו מלחמה בני יוסף גם הוא על סיננו ונלחם בנו. So you see, that's the Jewish story. Before we take a breath, I mean, we're Pasuk Ches in the Sefer Habonim, we're already a threat to Mitzrayim, and they are figuring out how to deal with the threat. You know, on this pasuk, Vayokom Melech Chodosh al Mitzrayim Asher Lo Yoda Es Yosef. So Rashi says, Vayokom Melech Chodosh Rav Ushmu Chad Omar Chodosh Mamish, that he was Mamish, a new king. The Chad Omar Shenischat Gzei Roisov. He wasn't really a new king, but he took on a new persona. Because Neschatchu Gzei Roisov, the Dibur HaMaschil Asher Lo Yoda, Rashi says, Osa Atzmoi Ki'ilu Lo Yoda. He pretended as if he didn't know Yosef. What Rashi says in the second Dibur HaMaschil, that he was Osa Atzmoi Ki'ilu Lo Yoda, is according to the second opinion in the previous Rashi, that he wasn't a Melech Chodosh Mamish. According to this opinion, so he really was Yodas Yosef. He was only Osa Atzmoi, Ki'ilu Lo Yoda. But according to the first opinion, that we're talking about Melech that was Chodosh Mamish, so the Pasuk L'choira reads Kipshuta, he really didn't know Yosef. But Rashi doesn't make the connection. He doesn't tie it together. Rashi seems to say an independent Dibur HaMaschil Asher Lo Yoda Es Yosef. It would seem that this is according to both opinions that he quoted in the previous Rashi. So it could be that Rashi holds that even if he's Vayokom Melech Chodosh means a Chodosh Mamish, but it just means that he's a new king. Doesn't mean that he's a new person. So even if he's a new king, he should have known Yosef, even though he is becoming a king now. But he was around before, and therefore Rashi is learning L'Kuli Alma that he's Osa Atzmei Ki'ilu Lo Yoda. Truth is that the Gemara in Soita, Daf Yud Aleph, brings this machlokes of Rav Shmuel in the reading of Melech Chodosh, if it's Chodosh Mamish or Neschatchu Gzei Roisov, and afterwards the Gemara says Asher Lo Yoda Es Yosef, Osa Atzmei Ki'ilu Lo Yoda. So it would seem that Taich in Lo Yoda as Yosef, Osa Atzmai Ki'ilu Lo Yoda is according to both opinions. Not only according to the opinion that he was Nischatchu Gzei Roisov, but also according to the opinion that he's a Melech Chodosh Mamish. However, the same Gemara appears also in Eruvin Daf Nun Gimel. And over there, after the machlokes of Rav Shmuel, in the meaning of Chodosh, the Gemara says, Ulaman da Omar shenischatchu gzei roisov hodik siv asher lo yoda es Yosef. Mai asher lo yoda es Yosef. The Havi domi command lo yoda Yosef klal. So over here, the Gemara clearly is toile the reading of lo yoda es Yosef in the meaning of Melech Chodosh. Maybe it's a machlokes asugis, and Rashi is following the sugya and soita al pi pshutei shel mikra, that even if he's a melech chodosh mamish, we have to understand it as osa atzmai ki'ilu lo yoda. However, the re'aim is magia in the Rashi, and he says that asher lo yoda es Yosef is not a new dibur hamaskil, Asher lo yoda es Yosef should not be bold. Asher lo yoda es Yosef, and he adds a vav, and he says, Ve asher lo yoda es Yosef, osa atzmai keilu lo yoda. In other words, that this is all the second opinion that Rashi brought. Sheneschatshuk zeiroisav ve asher lo yoda es Yosef, osa atzmai keilu lo yoda. That according to the second opinion, it reads in the sense of osa atzmai keilu lo yoda. But according to the first opinion, he was be'emes lo yoda. I mean, the chayra maida have whatever it was. I mean, but it's you're talking that there's an afkemina ladina from this machlokes. You know, in the Sefer Toras Chaim on Masechtes Eruvin, the Toras Chaim is an ancient Sefer. I mean, the Toras Chaim, Rabbi Avram Chaim Shor, he was nifta in 1632 in Shin Tzadik Beis. He was actually the Rav of Belz. Now, it's a classic Sefer on Masechtes Hashas. So he raises the question, if somebody sells somebody a house as a bayis chodosh, and it turns out that it's not a bayis chodosh, it's a renovated house. He actually says, shetziroi v'sidoi, it was newly painted. Is it a mekach tos, or is it, or does the sale go through? So he says that it depends on this machlokes of Rav Shmuel. L'man da'amar chodosh mamish, a bayis chodosh has to be a bayis chodosh mamish. L'man da'amar sheneschatshuk zeiroisov, it takes on a new face. That's also called a bayis chodosh. That's what the Toras Chaim says in Eruv and Daf Nun Gimel. Actually, something similar appears already in the Mishnah Melech. I mean, not already, because the Mishnah Melech was almost 100 years after the Toras Chaim. But the Mishnah Melech in Hilchos Malachim, Perek Zayin Halacha Ches, raises the same question Lagabi the Choizrim me'orchei hamilchama. You know, the Choizrim mi ha'isha shebona bayis chodosh v'loi chanochoi yelech v'yoshuv lebeisoi. So he's mistapik. How about somebody that renovated his house? Is he also Choizrim me'orchei hamilchama? And he also says that it depends on the machlokes of Rav Shmuel. If chodosh means chodosh mamish, or chodosh means sheneschatshuk zeiroisov. Now, how do we paskin? You know, in Divrei Agoda, we don't paskin. The Rambam says in several places in Pirush HaMishnayos, the kol dover she'ein boy maise min ha'maisim ki im emunas dover bilvad ein oimrim boy halacha kifloini. There's no akroa in Divrei Agoda. However, I mean, according to these akroinim, this is a machlokes that is negea also lahaloche. When the Gemara says chad omar, we don't know who said what. Rav Shmuel, chad omar, chodesh mamish, chad omar sheneschatshuk zeiroisov. We don't know who said what. However, there's a Radvaz in Hilchos Ma'aser Sheni, Perek Vav Halacha Gimel, who says that the first chad is the first Amora that was mentioned, and the second chad is the second Amora that was mentioned, which means that in this case, it would be Rav that said Chodesh Mamish, and it would be Shmuel that said Sheneschatshuk zeiroisov. No, you know that Hilchese Kerav be'isuri and Keshmuel bedini. So I say that Lagabe the Shaila of the Toras Chaim in Hilches Mekach Memker, if it is or it isn't a Mekach Tos. Yes, so we need to paskin like Shmuel that says Nischatshuk zeiroisov, which means that a renovated house would qualify as a bayis chodosh. However, in terms of the Mishnah Melech Shaila, that if he's choizer me'orche hamilchama, or that's shaykh to the realm of halacha kerav be'isuri, it's not dinei mominus. When memele halacha kerav be'isuri, only a chodosh mamish is a chodosh, and azah chodosh eis nishkan chodosh. Yep. So we have a machlokes. Asher lo yodes Yosef. He really didn't know, or he pretended as if he doesn't know. But Rashi is not mefarish b'chlal. What is really the idea? Lo yodes Yosef. How does this connect with what's going on over here? Vayokom melech chodesh al Mitzrayim. Asher lo yodes Yosef. And he says to his people, you know, Havan is chak malog. So if he would know Yosef, he wouldn't know Yosef. How is this the background of his gezerah? It's interesting. The Targum Onkelos says V'kom malke chadete al Mitzrayim, a new king arose. Deloy mekayim gezeiras Yosef. He didn't carry out Yosef's decrees. What was Yosef's decree? That the Melech Chodesh wasn't mekayim. So it's really a mystery. It could be that Yosef, being in his position, he passed laws to protect, the Jewish minority. And the Vayoko Melech Chodesh al Mitzrayim, he wasn't mekayim the Gzeres Yosef. And he didn't follow the laws that Yosef passed in order to protect the Jews. I'm just suggesting, I have no clue. But Lefi Zeh, you wouldn't have to say that Osa Atzmei Keilu. It doesn't matter if he's a Melech Chodesh Mamish or he's a Melech that Nischatshu Gzeiroisov. The point is that Lo Yodas Yosef, he's not being Mekayim the Gzeres Yosef. So Rashi obviously didn't learn like the Targum that it's Lo Mekayim Gzeras Yosef. So what's the meaning of Lo Yodas Yosef? Pashtas the pshat is that Yosef saved Mitzrayim from they would have all been dead by now. There was a rov, and Memela, there should be some hakoras hatoiv for Yosef and his people, and Pharaoh that's being goyze gzeres on Klal Yisrael, that he's ignoring what Yosef did for them, what Yosef did for the Mitzrayim, and so Rebbe Eliezer Appleton says that we should look into Shem Olam from Reb Reuven Margolius, who has a discussion about the Chad Omar, but he might be just another Chad Omar. Yeah, but I don't know. But no, I'm not saying, because he really has a tremendous wealth of knowledge. Yeah, so the point is like this. So what is the idea? What is the idea of? Okay, so we would say it's a lack of hakoras hatov. If he would have remembered Yosef, if he would have acknowledged Yosef's contribution to Mitzrayim, he wouldn't have done what he did. However, it's not so poshut, because Yosef did what he did. But Vayomos Yosef v'chol echo v'chol ador ahu. There's a new generation now. Maybe he doesn't feel indebted to the new generation. So why are we saying Lo Yoda es Yosef? Maybe we can suggest another pshat. That we're talking about knowing the history of Yosef himself. The brothers of Yosef hated him al chaloi moisav va'al dvorov. So they made every effort that those chaloi mois should not come true. Vayiru oisoi meirochoik, ubeterem yikrav aleim vayisnaklu oisoi lahamisoy, vayomru ishelochiv, hine bala chaloi mois halozeh bo, va'ato lechuven hargeu v'nashlicheu ba'achad aboirois, let's see what will come of his dreams. So already over there, Rashi says, Amar Reb Yitzchok Mikra Zeh Oimed Darsheni, Ruach HaKodesh Oimeres Kain, Heim Oimrim Nahargeu. That's what they're saying. V'akosov Mesayim v'nireh mayu chalom moisav. It's not that they're saying, let's see what will come of his dreams, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying, Nireh dvar mi yokum. Let us see who will prevail. Im shalochem oy sheli. V'nireh ma yiu chaloi moisav. Practically, they took him out of the bar and they sold him to the Yishmaelim, who sold him to the Midianim, who sold him to the Mitzrayim, and that's really what led to the kiyum of the chaloimos. Not only did they not prevent the chaloimos from coming true, but they actually contributed to the chaloimos becoming true. Already before it says, Vayishlachehu me'emek Chevron, Lamed Zayin Yud Daled. Rashi says, V'haloi Chevron bahar. Shenemar, the pasuk says in Parashat Shlach, Vayalu ba'negev, Vayovoyu ad Chevron. So Chevron is bahar. So what's me'emek Chevron? Zokt Rashi, Elo me'etza amuka shaloisoi tzadik hakover b'Chevron. L'kayim ha'shenemar la'avrom b'bris bein ha'psorim ki ger yezaracha. So Yaakov Avinu is sending Yosef l'chore for the purpose of l'cho no re'ei. Es shloim achecha, ve'shloim atzoin, v'ashiveni dovar. But be'emes, what happens is that this is the Mesavev Kol HaSibis is being megalgal the kiyum of the Eitza Amuke of Kiger Yeh Zaracha Be'eretz Lo Lohem. He sends him to Shem. That's where the brothers went to. But on the way, Vayimtzoi Ish V'hinei Toya Basoda. He was wandering. He lost his way. Vayishalei Ish Leimer Mate Vakesh. Vayomes Akai Anochi Mevakesh. Hagidon Noli Eifei Heim Royim. Vayomer Ish Nosu Mizeh Ki Shamati Yoimrim Neilcho Doisona Vayelech Yosef Achaecha Vayimtzeim B'Doisa. So what's this whole, I mean, the Torah gets into these details that happened along the way, that he lost his way, he met somebody, he happened to hear that Yosef, that the brothers said, Neilcha Doisona, and therefore he directed him to go to Doisan, and that's where he found him. So the Ramban says, V'yarech HaKosov Bazel HaHagid, Ki Sibois Rabbeis Bo Eilov Shahoya Roy Loy Lachzer, that Yosef really would have gone back home. He can't find him. Aval Hakol Soval Lichvoid Oviv. But nevertheless, since he was on a mission that Yaakov Avinu sent him to look for his brothers, he didn't give up. That's the first shot in the Rambam. But then he says, Ulahoidienu oit. Ki hagzeira emes. V'hacharitzus sheker. The heavenly decree, that's truth. And charitzus, how would we say charitzus? Being industrious. I mean, so charitzus is sheker. I mean, in other words, a person can try anything that he tries in order to prevent what ought to happen from happening, or to make what shouldn't be happening happen, and it's not going to help. Hagzeira emes v'hacharitzus sheker. Ki zimein lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu moira derech. HaKadosh Baruch Hu was mezamen him a guide. Shaloi midaita. Lahaviyoi biyodom. Shaloi al chinam hoyo kol hasipur hazeh. This didn't happen for no reason. Yeah, lahoidienu ki atzas Hashem hi sokum. So in other words, he's toya baderech. And not only is he toya baderech, but he's on the way to the wrong place. Yeah, he lost his way, but even if he wouldn't have lost his way, he would be going to the wrong place because he's looking for them in Shechem. But as if by chance somebody happened to hear where they went, and he happens to take an interest in Yosef, and he directs him. So, in the end of the day, we see that everything that the brothers did in order to make sure that the dreams don't come true, Ibemis brought the kiyum of the chaloimus, and the Dvar Hashem hi tokum. Rabbis machshavos b'levish, the Atzas Hashem hi sokum. Right? The Gzeira emes v'charitzus sheker. So, Pharaoh makes the Gzeira kol ben ha'yiloi dayoret hashlichu. He wants to prevent the pen yirbe. But dafke, that brings about the Atzas Hashem hisokum. Because it wasn't enough that Moshe Rabbeinu should survive the Gzeira. He also needed to be raised in the home of Pharaoh. As the Ibn Ezra is marich, and he says, the Ibn Ezra in Beis Gimel, he says, "Umachshavos Hashem omku." Yeah, the machshavos of HaKadosh Baruch Hu are deep. Umi yuchal lamoid b'soidoi. V'loi levad niskenu alilois. Ulai sivev Hashem zeh. Sheyigdal Moshe bebeis hamalchus. V'hiyois nafshay al madrego ha'elyoyne b'derech halimud v'haregilus. He should be brought up in a house of a king, so he should have a Madrege el yoyne b'derech halimud v'haregilus v'loi tia shveilo uregila liyos b'beis avodim. He shouldn't develop a slave mentality along with the other Yidden that were enslaved in Mitzrayim. He had to be raised in the house of the king. Haloi tire shehorag hamitzri ba'avur she'osa chomos v'hirshia b'nois midyon meharoyim. He saved the b'nois midyon from the shepherds. Ba'avur if he would have been raised together with the other Yidden, and they would know him from childhood, they wouldn't fear him. Ki yachshivu ke'echad mehem. He wouldn't be able to lead. Anyway, Moshe Rabbeinu's ability to lead was based on his being raised bebeis Paray. Why was Moshe raised bebeis Paray? Because there was a gzeira of kol ben ayila dayoret hashlichu, and therefore he was put into the yor, and therefore the bas Paray, he was eventually taken by the bas Paray, and the bas Paray put him into the home of Paray. And he was raised in the home of Paray. So Paray made Gzeira, Pen Yirbe, and V'nilcham bonu v'olam min haaretz. Yeah, that was the whole reason that he made the Gzeira of Kol ben Hayiloi Dayoret Tashlichu. But in the end of the day, Hacharitzus Sheker, V'Gzeira Emes. And not only did he not interfere with the divine plan, but he actually facilitated the kiyum of the divine plan. And Moshe Rabbeinu became who he was, dafke through the Gzeira. So obviously, what we're saying is that Paray was lo yoda es Yosef. If he would have known the history of Yosef, if he would have been mizboinen in the history of Yosef, he would have understood that what's meant to happen is going to happen, and you can't interfere with the Gzeira Emes, and therefore he wouldn't have done what he did. But he was lo yoda es Yosef. He didn't know the history of Yosef. So avada, somebody that believes that Atzas Hashem Hisokum will not make an effort to achieve and to accomplish something with non-kosher efforts, and will not try to prevent something that he doesn't want with non-kosher efforts. There's no way to circumvent the Ritzoin HaBoirei. I just want to read to you an interesting thing. There's a Sefer, Eretz Tzvi, from the Kozlakov Rav. He was the Rosh Hashiva of Chachmei Lublin after Meir Shapiro. He was killed al Kiddush Hashem in the Warsaw Ghetto in Tafshin Gimel. Anyway, in his Sefer Eretz Tzvi, on Parshas on the Haftarah of Parshas Vayetze, he writes like this: V'hine misha mamin b'hashgocha protis, shehi mitzvus asay shel anochi Hashem Elokecha. He says to believe in hashgocha protis. Hakadosh Baruch Hu mashgiach al kol prat u'ferat. V'hi efshel ha'adam lokachas la'atzmoi mashu hano oikovid zulas mashu nigzer olav. You can't get anything that is not coming to you. Zulas mashu nigzer olav b'Rosh Hashanah. Yoidea shafila hanoa min ha'avera in bekoicha lokachas ba'atzmoi. Rak machmas shenigzera olav hanoa zu. V'im loy hoya over ha'avera hoysel loy hanoa zu mamish beketzev ubemida zu behete. Because if you deserve a hanoa, it'll come to you behete. Because hakol b'dei shamayim. I mean, this is really, I'm just saying as a background. Hakol b'dei shamayim chutz mir shamayim. So what you're going to have or not have, that's b'dei shamayim. Your choice is the Yiras Shamayim. In other words, will you take it behete? Will you take it be'eser? But you're not taking anything that's not coming to you. And Memela, he says, "V'oz yesh le'abchira lihonis min ha'avera. V'shamati uvde she'arav hakodesh mivurke zeichet tzadik levroche osaf pam mo'os liknois na'alayim b'shvil hashamish sheloi." He collected money to buy shoes for his shamish. V'hashamish lo yodam mizeh. The shamish didn't know that the Rebbe collected money to buy him shoes. V'kashenesaf kol hakesef gone from hashamish. All the money was set aside, and the shamish gamvid the money. So Amaloi Arav HaKodesh Zatzal Re'ei Tipish. Yeah, look what a fool you are. If you would have waited, you would have had this money behete. At kan shamati. Yeah, umizen ishma she'afilu ganev English shlita lignoi vrakim nigzer olav balav hachi she'agiu amois liyodoi. V'im lo hoya tipish hoya oisem mois boim liyodoi behete. V'oz yesh legam hakoyach lignoi v'oisem be'eser. But in other words, the person can't change the gzeira. He only could change himself. Yeah, he could. The choices that we make are the choice of doing the right thing or the wrong thing. But what we have or don't have is hakoil bidei shamayim. So, and b'chlal, it's important to know that what you see is not necessarily what you get. In other words, me'emek chevron is me'etza amuka shelo yisei tzadik vayimtzeu ish he has all of a sudden a guide presents himself. Ruach HaKodesh says, "V'nireh ma yiu chaloi moisav." Moshe Rabbeinu becomes royal melucha because of the Gzeira. So, I mean, that allows us, I mean, to preserve, I mean, our optimism in face of things that l'chore are going wrong, because nothing really goes wrong. I mean, it might look like it's going wrong, but sometimes progression is only through regression, and sometimes it's the Eitzah Mukeh Shaloi Sei Tzadik, the Vayimtzei Ish Nireh Ma Yiu Chaloi Moisav. It all happens dafke through ways and means that look like they're going the wrong way, and in the end, Dvar Hashem, Atzas Hashem, Hisokum. Okay, Rabbi Isai, I want to wish you a good Shabbos. Okay, yeah.